it. Oh, hey, everybody. Oh, you're going to regret that in a second. Welcome to Build Weekend Watch. Couple of things before we get started. This show is called Weekend Watch, but I think it's fair to say we were all watching something other than TV shows and movies yesterday. I could get on a soapbox right now and rant about how much of a sham and disgrace the Republicans were, but to be honest, the only thing that hearing proved was the last thing we need is more men pontificating and whining about how they feel. So as the host of a show that's about to feature a panel of only men, sorry, booking was tough this week, I will just say, listen to the women in your life, believe them, and geez, give them a hug, because if you thought this week sucked for you, did it suck for them? Also, only give them a hug if they want that. You know, ask and, you know, be polite about that. Next thing is, and this is more related to TV and movies, thankfully, it's officially fall, and with that comes a bunch of TV. A crap load of shows premiered this week, and there's more to come this weekend, and we're not going to be able to really talk in-depthly about all of them, so I am going to be very flippantly tossing some aside. My glibness regarding The Big Bang Theory and others will be fun, you'll see, and if you have any questions about any shows in this audience here, any shows that we've blown by, you can stand up, come to this mic, ask a question, and potentially get made fun of. Anyway, we're joined right now by senior writer for Yahoo Entertainment, Ethan Alter, and writer-editor Chris Rosen. Give them a round of applause. I told you my shit was long, man.
It wasn't that long.
Really long.
I was expecting it like much longer.
Oh, really? Were you
Yeah.
expecting like a whole network kind of?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like the pilot for what we're about to experience. It's appropriate.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
got to lay it out, right?
At least like Studio 60 level.
Trying to move from entertainment to politics, guys.
Go for it.
This is what I'm doing.
That's
right
where the
now.
news is right now.
Anyway, okay, network TV started this week off with 7 shows, from the final season of The Big Bang Theory to the reboot of Magnum P.I., whatever. CBS led the way with 4 out of 7. First up, The Big Bang Theory. In the final season of the show, it goes full phenomenon, and we learn that the last 13 years of all these geniuses have actually been dying of brain tumors, and that's why they have these big brains. Right, guys?
Pretty great. I did not expect the phenomenon reference so early in the show, so I appreciate that.
Usually save those for the last
yeah,
act.
it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Want to go out with a bang.
I don't watch The Big Bang Theory, I gotta be honest. I was surprised at how everybody, when it was ending, was like, oh, we should maybe reevaluate The Big Bang Theory. I saw that a lot online. I don't think we need to reevaluate it.
I don't think so
It is
either.
destined to be like, you know, dentist office filler. You know, you put it on an airplane when you don't have your own screen and it's just playing up there for like 3 or 4 episodes in a row and you're watching it with the sound off. But good for all those people. They're very rich, and I'm very excited for their future of cashing checks forever.
Yeah.
When someone says, I love The Big Bang Theory, I'm like, when do you turn off your brain and just have that? I mean, because that is just syndication background material for when my mom is like making dinner or something. Yeah. No offense to my mom, she's great. But like, you know, she's got a little TV in the kitchen and she just has random shows on all the time, and it's like Big Bang Theory, and there go my notes.
It's definitely the are you still watching, is this person still alive of your cable box, probably. Like reruns of The Big Bang Theory just playing ad infinitum on TBS or TNT or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say, I mean, this is the week where we welcome back Murphy Brown, right? So I could see in another 20 years, Big Bang Theory
I never
comes
even
back.
thought of
You
that.
know?
That's
I mean,
crazy.
it's going to live on, as you said, in syndication forever. But yeah, in 20 years from now, we will be seeing Jim Parsons, the whole cast again, reunite, and it will
20
be
20 years?
Yeah.
I say 5.
Maybe
They already have
but
the-
they have
They already have young
miss them a
Sheldon.
little.
It's
Yeah,
already
they do. That's the
exists.
thing.
They
Yeah.
can tie young Sheldon into The Big Bang Theory eventually, right? He's gonna age up, and then they'll bring everybody back.
Right.
Speaking of young Sheldon, smart kids with bow ties, not really my thing. Next, do you guys want to talk about that?
It's not much to say.
Does anyone here want to talk about young Sheldon? You can come up to the mic.
Right.
Okay, good.
Thumbs down. Wow.
Magnum P.I. reboot. You watched.
I watched it.
I did not
Out of
think we would
morbid
talk about
curiosity.
this.
No, I think there's not really much to talk about. I mean, again, in thinking of the 20 years from now reboot, this is basically it. The Magnum P.I. was big in the 80s. Now they're bringing it back now. It feels exactly like the same show that it was in the 80s, just with different faces populating it. The one X factor, obviously, is that Magnum himself is a Latin actor, Jay Hernandez, which is the one sort of, if you want to call it update or whatever it is that makes it unique. But even then, it's not unique. It's still very much the same.
Does Tom Selleck still get checks because of this?
His
for
mustache,
Magnum
yes.
P.I.?
Yeah, it
Like,
goes all
I,
of the mustache.
I mean, like CBS is in the Tom Selleck business, right? With Blue Bloods and with this, they're just keeping that guy afloat.
Yeah, pretty much. They're in the drug business.
All I got in relation to Magnum P.I.
I mean,
But-
sure, Magnum P.I.
Yeah,
right?
it follows the same beats. It has the same the theme songs, the same like they want to ape the original right down to everything you remember, but switching again, just putting in the new faces to make it seem like it's new, even though it's not actually.
For who? Who is watching the Magnum PI
Well, I mean,
remake and
obviously,
going,
like-
oh, this is just like the original?
Well, I mean, I guess that CBS must be like our demographic must like this, right? It's probably like 54 to 65-year-old older people who like Magnum PI and want to watch a reboot.
I can't imagine that demographic is going back and watching the Magnum PI reboot and going, this is exactly like the thing that I watched so intensely in the 80s.
Did anybody watch
the
TV
beats.
intensely in the 80s?
No,
though?
and they shouldn't now.
They probably don't watch that show like that now. It's background. Are you still watching?
Right.
that could be the name of CBS. Are you still watching?
Speaking
It's just
of-
you're falling asleep in front of the TV and this stuff is on.
Speaking of background, are you still watching? Up next, the CBS show Bull. I say nope.
I saw a poster for this on the subway,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Who is that actor?" It's Michael Weatherly, I think is his name, right? And he plays
like
Bull.
an NCIS
And
guy
it's
or a
just like,
CSI
well,
guy?
I don't know. It just looks like I don't know what it is. I think it is, but I think Christopher Jackson from Hamilton is on it.
Yes.
And hopefully he's still collecting a lot of nice checks from that show because he was great in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Do you have anything for Bull?
No, it's.
Okay, great.
I
Moving
will say
on.
he was from NCIS. Like I know that much. He
He was from NCIS.
He was, from NCIS.
Okay.
He was on the NCIS. beat.
Okay, up next on ABC, The Good Doctor. This is a very nice show to watch with your grandparents or aunt or something of that nature. That's all that I got.
I mean, Freddie Highmore is in The Good Doctor, right? Isn't that
Yes.
him?
He's very
and
good in
he's
it.
great, and
Yeah.
he was great on Bates Motel.
Good
So
cast.
it's like, he is like the TV version of maybe Timothée Chalamet or something where it's like a young actor people really like. It was a big surprise hit last year for ABC. I don't think anybody expected a show called The Good Doctor, which just sounds like a generic fake show that you would see in like The Simpsons or something, would end up being so popular, but there you go. It
Dr.
is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had to watch The Good Doctor for on occasion for interviews, and I will say of all of the medical shows that are on, it is the one that is the best written, maybe, and the most, the least insulting when it comes to medical shows.
Yeah, no. It seems like that's one of those shows that you can turn on again, like House back in the day. It's trying to be
House
the
is
new
a
House,
good
and that was always a show that was easy to just drop in and out of. You could watch it. I do think there's something to be said for.
Oh, I don't hate this.
I don't hate
I'm
this.
okay
I
with
watch
that.
it. There is something. I mean, in this Netflix era, there's to be something to be said for the shows that do episodics well. And Good Doctor is one of those that's a solid episodic show. You can just watch an episode and that's it. You don't have to commit to anything longer term than that. I think there's an appeal for that.
Up next, we have another medical show, The Resident, on Fox.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, up next, Manifest. Does anyone want to say
yes.
anything about The Resident? Okay, probably not. Manifest on NBC, A Return to Lost.
So I haven't watched this yet, but I'm way in on this kind of crazy ass Lost ripoff stuff. I love it so much.
You love Lost.
I loved Lost. I still do. I watched Flash Forward. I watched what was the one on
there you
NBC that was like Manifest? What was
Yep.
it called? The Event, I believe, maybe, or something
sounds
like
about
that. Anything where you have people on a plane and
There was
the plane.
the Steve Zahn one,
the
too.
plane disappears,
Yep.
and then they come back like it's a Twilight Zone episode, and they have mystical powers. And there's a big conspiracy. I will watch the hell out of that. So I know a Manifest premiered this week, and I did not watch the whole thing.
Right.
But I'm pretty excited for it. I do like that kind of show. It's interesting now because I feel like networks have kind of gone away from this kind of storytelling a little bit because they've actually, as you were saying just before, Netflix has done more of the, not an episodic thing. They're much more narrative and like you're not watching an episode, you're watching like a part of a giant movie.
Right.
And that gets exhausting, but for binge watching, it's great. For this kind of show, I feel like it is that kind of thing where you would probably want to binge watch. So seeing it on a network is somewhat appealing and a throwback to Lost. So I'll be there for that.
Yeah, I did watch it. It was funny. Apart from the Lost comparisons, it reminded me also of Flight of the Navigator, which is a favorite from my childhood. It had the whole being gone for a few years, then suddenly returning to your life, and also the 4400, which I think is sort of an underappreciated sci-fi show from the early aughts. But you can see the sort of Frankenstein's monster that it is of all those elements without the budget of Lost, without the really great B-level cast of 4400, which had Mahershala Ali, actually, before anyone knew who he was. And he was really great on that show back in the day. And then also just the premise of Flight of the Navigator. So it's a lot of little things from other things I like more than this. But I could see it be... It's one of those ones that could potentially, again, after it plays out, whether it's 13 or episodes...
I didn't love it, but
No, I didn't
you'll
love
give it
it.
more of a chance because it incorporates a lot of aspects of things that you like.
Exactly. There's that, and also it's the one thing that actually seems to have to your point about it being the sort of the opposite of the episodic. It is something that you can watch. You could binge it after it's all done and just watch all 13 in a row and sort of enjoy it that way. But not being it's not like a demanding watch that way. It can just be an easy binge if you wanted to see it.
No, I think the other interesting thing for me about the show is talking about reboots. How long until we reboot Lost? Like that's got to be coming down the pike. So I think if this show actually does perform, you will see maybe ABC being like, "Hey, remember Lost? What if we dug up that IP and threw a new cast on it?"
What would they do there? Aren't they all dead? I mean,
they
all
would just
like
reboot
in
the whole thing and like maybe
Oh,
like
just
we're gonna
put a
make it
whole new
right this
cast?
time. You remember Lost? You loved it and then you hated it. This time we got it. Look out! Coming soon on ABC this fall.
Everyone would buy that like they do
Can't
Spider
wait.
like they
It
do
would be so
Spider-Man
great.
every couple
Andrew
of years.
Garfield could be in this one.
Yeah. Although knowing
Better than that. Come on, you can't. Don't toss that on him.
knowing Abrams, he'd just create an alternate timeline. He did that with Trek, right? So there should be there's a Kelvin timeline in the Trek universe now. So they're just create the other the Hurley timeline.
We're
in
giving away
Lost.
$1 million ideas right now,
Exactly.
so I
There
think we
you
should
go.
like back
And
off on the Lost reboot and then call J.J. Abrams after this.
We're not even on Tuesday yet, so let's get there. This Tuesday showed us there is no such thing as too many procedurals. On Tuesday, the following shows premiered, or let's talk about this first one, NCIS. I do not watch this show. I am not a geriatric old man who enjoys the grisly demise of young women, otherwise Republicans. But anyway, do you guys watch an NCIS
That was
show?
definitely Les Moonves' favorite show on CBS.
Of course it was. Actually, there was a great. Let's just talk about this.
Go for it.
The woman who created Designing Women.
that was a great piece.
That was such
Linda
a great
Bloodsworth
piece.
Tom.
Go and read it. Right after Les Moonves got fired, the woman who created Designing Women, which was a banger, huge hit show in the 80s. And then she essentially got fired in a way by Les Moonves at CBS. Wrote this big piece for the Hollywood Reporter about how she was treated by Les Moonves. And one of the great moments is she references that he is kind of the godfather of all of these like hit shows that feature super polished images of mutilated women.
Right.
And that is like really in his wheelhouse. And it's a great, great piece on the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
That's where I stole that joke from anyway.
Good for you.
Thank you. Do you guys watch NCIS?
No.
Okay. Does anyone here want to talk about NCIS with us? Yeah, okay.
Another
Tell us
thumbs
what
down.
we're missing.
Yeah. Okay, up next we've got FBI. Dick Wolf is back with another thing.
I mean, it's just like literally he just is like, what else? It's like FBI, got it, done. It'll be on for 20 seasons. You know,
Right.
They'll do a crossover with SUV probably or something.
I can't imagine that his brainstorm meetings go for longer than like a couple minutes. Like he gathers a group of writers and producers and like, what do you guys got? And they're like,
Authority.
FBI. He's like, done.
20 episodes.
I think it's just the usual suspect where he's looking at a board at the end and just like picks names off it and then but does a show about it. That's how that's
What haven't we done yet?
exactly.
Okay, we got another NCIS that premiered. NCIS New Orleans, in case you wanted hurricanes with those
Somehow it's on
marching
season 5.
bands.
I mean,
And by hurricanes, I didn't mean like I meant the drink hurricane. You know,
Right,
thank
of
you.
course.
Yeah,
That's nice.
it was not a reference to
no,
Katrina.
no.
That's not nice. That's not good. Do you guys watch this?
No.
Does anybody watch this?
How about the next one? What do you got?
Which NCIS should we watch? I guess is the question. Like we got 3 to
Gifted.
choose from.
The
You watched
Gifted,
The
I don't
Gifted.
watch. No.
I watched some of season 1. I checked out the first episode this season. I mean, it's the X-Men show.
I was gonna
that's
say it's
not
X-Men,
Legion,
and they're
pretty
not
much,
allowed
yeah.
to say X-Men, though,
It's-
right?
No, they do.
Oh, they do.
They
can? Okay.
dropped the Hellfire Club. No,
Great.
they're making this much more overtly X-Men than Legion does, for example. Whereas Legion sort of plays at being an X-Men show because Noah Hawley wants to have that sort of prestige factor going for his show. The Gifted is sort of unapologetic about being an X-Men affiliated show. It's sort of it's enjoyable from an action perspective. They emphasize the action. They have downplayed Bryan Singer's role. I don't think his name appears in the credits anymore, whereas it did in the first season, for other reasons that we don't have to talk about right now if we don't want to. But it is very. It's sort of like the. It's just this. It's sort of just like an afternoon serial just been promoted to prime time, basically. It's set in the X-Men universe. It's fine. It's mainly a long chase, I'd say.
Let's move on to the next one. Lethal Weapon is back with a new cast member. Sean William Scott has joined the cast because Damon Wayans and the other guy could not get along.
So that is a great story in the
I loved
off
it.
season. I think his name is Clayne Crawford. Is
Clayne
that
Crawford,
Clayne
yes.
Crawford
What a
was
name.
Martin
Rectifies
Riggs,
Clayne Crawford.
who was made famous by Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon movies, and he got into a huge brawl with seemingly verbal spat with Damon Wayans on the show
All the time.
and, all the time, and with people accused him of being belligerent on the set, and there was a question of whether a Lethal Weapon would even come back because it was like on the bubble, so they just fired him and brought it back with Sean William Scott. They killed off Riggs. Spoiler alert, that was in this last episode that premiered this week, and now Sean William Scott is like his cousin, I think, right, or a family member or something like that.
It's sort of vague. They emphasize more the fact that he's a military guy.
Right.
He's
So
ex-military.
now it's
So,
like,
yeah.
will these two guys get along? I don't know. Is he getting too old for this? Who
Who
knows? We'll find out.
I am very happy that Sean William Scott is getting work. That makes
Love
me
it.
happy.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I listened to the audio of Damon
Yeah.
Wayans and Clayne Crawford fighting, and it did not sound like one particular person's fault. It sounded like two massive egos going at each other.
Certainly that was it, but I think the other thing was Clayne Crawford directed an episode where Damon Wayans was injured because he was not. They were concerned about safety. That was also why this guy got fired from the show.
I just
he
can't
denied that
imagine-
and was like, I had some anger issues, but whatever. So.
I just can't imagine being Sean William Scott going into this show. Like the kind of conversations he had to have with producers who was like, whatever you do, just do what Damon says. That is how you survive, and that is how you survive this show. And he's like, cool, got it, love work. Thank you.
It is always fun to see how they replace actresses. So in this one, I was curious to see if they would kill off Clayne Crawford, and they did. Like he's being wheeled in a gurney down the hospital hallway, and then clearly not him under the blanket, and then like a minute later, the doctor comes out and says he's dead, and that's it. Like very unceremonious. Like it's just like, sorry, you're gone. And
Did Damon Wayans' character even have to like feign sadness about it?
They jump ahead 6 months. It's like there's like a 6 months later jump. He's been grieving apparently in his house all this time.
Love it.
And then meanwhile, the kids are like, "Get over it, Dad. That guy was a loser." Like that essentially is what they were trying to say.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, they're nice about it. They're like, we know you loved Riggs, but you know what? You got to move on. And so like there was that. They quickly moved past.
We're gonna have that and Roseanne Connor doing the same thing on Roseanne. We have one more for a trend, but this is a big off season of people getting fired unceremoniously from their shows. The show's continuing, and they have to kill off the character.
Well, Roseanne is not continuing. It's coming back as a new show.
Well, right,
called The
legally
Connors.
they had to call it The Connors, but definitely she's dying. Her character is dying on the show.
Yeah.
So.
They haven't described how she's dying.
She
yet.
has said how.
Oh,
but
what
I
did
won't
she
spoil
say?
it for the fans.
Oh,
Do you want me to spoil it for you?
do you want? Hey fans, do you want him to spoil it
In
for
an
you?
interview, Roseanne said that Roseanne's character, I believe, dies of like a drug overdose. That's what they had said. She said that in an interview, but they did not confirm
Actually,
that.
she's an opiate addict in the last season. Yeah.
Maybe that is how they.
that gives
But regardless, that show is coming back without her, and they're going to do the same thing where it's like, wow, we're so sad Roseanne died, and then 10 minutes later doing like Waka Waka laugh track, and like nobody cares.
Let's move on to the next one. Mr. In Between on FX. This is a new crime comedy co-created by director Nash Edgerton, who is the brother of Joel Edgerton, and the star of the show, Scott Ryan. I've heard stuff about this show. Have you seen it?
I watched the first episode, and
This is why you're here.
And I'm so glad Ethan is here.
I try to watch what I can. It's sort of it's definitely sort of a look at a seedy life in Australia. Like it has elements of what was the Joel Edgerton Animal Kingdom? Yeah, right. Like it's sort of.
It's not a crime. I thought it was more of a comedy.
It is. It is a little more of a comedy. It put me in mind of sort of like the scuzzy, low life level of Aussie society that you sort of see in Animal Kingdom. Just played slightly more comedic broadly, but it's still fairly dramatic too, because you see the guy beating up various people who make fun of him or just out and about doing his criminal activities. I don't know that I was particularly compelled to watch more than the first one. I didn't think the lead was strong enough to really hook me, but if you like Aussie crime films or crime stories,
I love Animal Kingdom.
Right.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But that wasn't Nash Edgerton's movie. That was
but Joel Edgerton was
Misha.
in it.
yeah, David Misha did that one.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We have This Is Us, which, there's enough for me to cry about on a daily basis to not have to watch the show. But some people find it cathartic watching these handsome people cry. Do you watch This Is Us?
What I like doing now is actually going back and reading about This Is Us. I'm up to the speed on like the characters and like everything that's happening, but I don't watch it anymore. I didn't watch this week, but I'll go and read all the spoilers and stuff that happened. I just find it fascinating how they're like ginning up excitement over the show that we already kind of know everything. That there's a time jump this season forward that was teasing the season finale last season, but we already know that Jack died because the crock pot lit on fire, but now we're going back to their first date and stuff in this new season. I mean, the show's really compelling because Sterling K. Brown is still like one of the best actors, I think, working, period, and he's great on that show. And, I think Milo Ventimiglia and Mandy Moore are really great together, and that's a blessing and the curse for the show because I think narratively it would maybe make sense for Jack to not be part of it anymore. But everyone loves Mandy Moore and Milo Ventimiglia, so of course we're going to keep them on and keep their like compelling love story going. But it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's obviously a huge hit for NBC, so it's like we don't have to worry about This Is Us.
Although I was reading that the ratings were down and the season 3 premiere, so there is a question of how long can they keep this going and inventing sort of things to happen to this family.
I think we kind of have an age right now where shows like This Is Us can't really maintain momentum past 2 or 3 seasons.
Right.
I don't think people have it in them with the amount of content that there is to watch to stick with a show for 2 or 3 seasons that's not simply episodic or background fodder like The Big Bang Theory.
Right. Besides, with this too, if ever a show had lent itself to spin-offs and like expanding the universe, it's This Is Us, because you could just be like, we're ending This Is Us after season 4, but we're going to do a whole show about Sterling K. Brown, and it's just going to be about his family and adventures. And then we could do another show about like, we'll do an origin show with like Jack and whatever, Mandy Moore. I just think there's a ton of ways for the NBC to keep this going beyond the This Is Us parent show, and we'll see whether they end up deciding to do that in a couple of years.
Maybe Stallone can get it because he was a character.
He was a character.
So maybe he
Stallone
can get his
played
own
himself.
version. We can get just the Stallone show in This Is Us universe. I would like to see that.
Because one of the actors, one of the guys on the show is an actor. He was acting opposite Stallone, who is Milo Ventimiglia's favorite actor, and Milo obviously played Stallone's son in Rocky Balboa, so it's like all kinds of like meta stuff going on.
Up next, we have a medical procedural. God, we're still only on Tuesday. So many shows.
Wow.
New Amsterdam.
Let's just skip this one.
Oh, no, but I've seen it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Wait, you found one you've seen?
exactly.
This is the one you
this.
decided to watch? What is it about, Ricky? Tell me.
Okay, so New Amsterdam follows a young hotshot doctor who's got
Haven't heard
his
this.
heart and his brain in the right place, but he's working at a medical facility that's a bit atrophied, and they haven't been working well for the patients, and they've been billing them wrong. But he's going to come in and change that. But meanwhile, in the pilot, which has more storylines than any pilot I've ever seen, there is an Ebola patient who has just flown in, who may be a terror suspect, who gets another doctor that is trying to take care of this Ebola patient, possibly gets Ebola from them. There is a possible miscarriage of the main character's wife. There is another doctor who isn't in the hospital enough and is just doing too many press hits. And then I forgot some. There's
foster
even more.
care. The foster care
There's
kid.
a
Yep,
foster care story with a runaway girl, which has like one of the cheesiest scenes in I think the whole pilot, where he, the poor actor, Ryan Eggold, has to stand up and essentially say to the other guy, like, don't treat her like a patient.
Right.
Treat her like a human. She's like, whoa. And then I honestly think I'm missing some storylines here.
There's the doctor who tells the lead guy to slow down a little bit because he missed something on a.
Oh, there's
with
a whole
woman
house. There's a whole house scenario where the woman has a tumor, but they don't know it's a tumor,
exactly.
right?
I think she's dead at first, but she's not dead.
And then there's the heart doctor who got fired but might stay. It's one of the craziest pilots I've ever seen without even having any idea that it's crazy. Anyway, that's New Amsterdam.
Well, we also used to say that you can tell the show does because it ends with a Coldplay cover of Fix You. That's all you
should have
know.
started with that, because now I'll watch it.
When it ends with a Coldplay cover, that's how you know the kind of show it is. That just sums it up right there. So.
Right. I don't watch that many medical dramas, but like Grey's Anatomy, for instance, which I believe is on our next or on Thursday nights. Does it have as many storylines as something like New Amsterdam? You seem to have seen the episode. Was it as crazy as I found it to be?
It is only because I feel like I haven't seen like a medical pilot that does that kind of ER multi-layered storytelling in a long time. Something like The Good Doctor is more focused around one person, or House too back in the day. Like it feels like this is trying to be back to ER where they're just throwing lots of stuff at you. And
was ER like that?
Yeah. The early episodes of ER, there was always multiple storylines happening.
But that many?
Not usually.
All that dramatic?
I think they learned the wrong lesson from ER, thinking they had to have about 8 different storylines. Whereas ER usually kept it in like the 4 to 5 range sometimes.
All right, let's move on to Wednesday. I think we have to move really fast now. Comedy night back in full swing. Plus 20 of Dick Wolf's Chicago series. Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Sanitation, Chicago Insert Municipal Department. I don't know.
Chicago Waterworks, yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone watch this? Great.
Chicago, no.
Anybody watch this? No, we're all, sort of not at that age. Okay, up next, Empire. Still crazy after all these years. I think that's the tagline, probably. Do you guys watch Empire? I remember when it premiered, it was so great.
Yeah, no, I stopped.
Yeah, I stopped. Yeah.
But again, it's another show where you're like, wow, Taraji P. Henson, every week people get to see her on TV. That's great.
Which is great.
But like I said, I just don't think there's an appetite for shows like that to last longer than 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I think creatively you just run out of steam.
Exactly.
And then it's like, that's why I think the cable model for a lot of these people, like Empire, you're going to have to do, 22 episodes or whatever it's going to be for a season.
Right.
And if that could be 3 seasons of a cable show, right? Or a Netflix show. If you had an 8-episode run. They're getting 3 years out of that, whereas Empire has 1. So you're just kind of running out of story.
I will say we are incredibly dismissive of some of the most successful shows on television.
Yeah, no.
And we have a question!
Okay. All right.
Woo!
I actually wanted to comment about Empire because I believe it was on Wednesday, and my little brother, he's like 12, and he came running in the house, literally. Empire is on. So I think like it's more of like their demographic sort of
Kids
shifted.
show now.
Probably because
Is that what you're saying?
if my 12-year-old brother likes it, then. But yeah.
Do you like it?
I actually fell off from watching it.
Yeah. It's
I feel
tough.
that's
It's
the
hard to
story of
stick
the
around
show.
for all those shows. Let's move on. We got to move on to the next one. We've got Star,
Which is
season
in the
3.
80s.
No.
Okay. We've got the Goldbergs, season 6. It's fun.
Yeah, this is part of the ABC lineup. I check in on it every now and then.
Yeah.
Although the episode the season premiere is a 16 Candles riff, and knowing how Molly Ringwald has come out about 16 Candles and John Hughes in general recently makes the celebrating that a little odd now. I will say
I would
watching
say
that.
if you have a family and you want to watch TV with your family, the Goldbergs is probably a really great show for that. I, for one, am a cynical single man, so you will probably not catch me watching the Goldbergs. Up next, we have The American Housewife. I think Katie Mixon is a treasure. I don't necessarily watch the show, but she's wonderful. And every time I have watched it, I've just been so happy that she has a show.
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
Agreed.
next. Modern Family. Apparently, this isn't the final season, but someone dies. Maybe the kids. I don't know.
I definitely don't think it's the kids. It'll probably be like the dog or something, or some minor character.
I think the dog would be more heartbreaking for audiences than
Here's a
like,
question: does it have a
Tyler.
dog? Because I've actually never watched it. And I just said that because I assumed the show like Modern Family would have a dog.
Whatever, dog.
But a dog is kind of a pain to film, so probably not.
Who knows? What
Or
else
they
we
just
got?
recycle footage.
Do you have any idea who dies this season?
I don't. My guess would be just Ed O'Neill, just based on age, and
That
like
too,
he
but
could
don't you
cash
think we would
out,
know
but-
that he died? Like, I mean, he's such a major part of the show. I feel like that would have leaked out.
Isn't that usually
He
the
would have
case?
gotten booked somewhere else. I mean, I don't think they would have been able to keep that free of spoilers.
When was the last
Or
time
no,
a big
yes.
death got teased that we didn't know who it was, and then when it happened, it was like, of course it was that person. They're not a regular on the show, which is usually the case. I remember that happening
that,
quite
or like,
recently.
I mean, the last big death was. I mean, there's been a bunch on Game of Thrones, obviously, or Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, but there it's
like
part of
they
it.
killed Derek. What's his face?
what?
Yeah, that was like 3 years ago.
Okay, up next we've got a new show on ABC called Single Parents. The people on this show are nice. If you like this sort of thing, you should watch it. I like these people. I probably won't watch it, but I like these people. Have you seen it?
I've watched it. It sort of reminded me of just of trying to be the next Modern Family. You can tell ABC knows Modern Family is getting to the end of its run. It will end, if not this season, next, and they need something to fill that slot. So they're trying to find that next family comedy.
Good fall for Gossip Girl alums because you have Leighton Meester on Single Parents, Blake Lively in theaters on A Simple Favor, and Dan Humphrey, what's his face, Penn Badgley on You.
Right.
So it's a nice time for if you're a fan of Gossip Girl too.
Isn't Chase Crawford from Gossip Girl as well?
Yep.
He's also in a movie called All About Nina. With,
With
he's
Mary
in that
Elizabeth
as well.
Winstead. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, up next we've got ABC's answer to This Is Us. It is called A Million Little Things, which, quick embarrassing story, while interviewing the cast of that, I kept referring to it as A Million Little Pieces.
Oh, no.
The James
Yeah,
Franco.
very different.
I'm sure Ron Livingston loved that
Wait till
one.
you see that movie, then you can
Actually, Ron Livingston was quite nice about it. He was like, they should have changed the title. It's too close.
Oh, man. Good for him getting paid. Love
yeah,
Ron Livingston.
But I love Ron Livingston. Look, this is an answer to This Is Us. When I saw the first episode of This Is Us, I literally went, no one's going to watch this. And it's the most successful show. So I don't know. People might love A Million Little Things.
Yeah, and they like twists. It seems like that has a nice twist and like the convoluted
Yeah.
narrative. I mean, they'll keep you watching.
It's very much that. Yeah, there's a big twist at the top, which is in the trailer, so this is not a spoiler. Ron Livingston, his character, it aired last night. His character
It's out
commits
there.
suicide right at the top,
Right.
and all of his friends sort of start realizing that they're not doing enough with their lives based off of his suicide. Ethan, have you seen this?
I watched it for Grace Park, just as you say, Katie Mixon is a national treasure. I think Grace Park is as well. I'm a Battlestar Galactica fan from way back, so it's fun to see her move on. And I'm glad she got out of the Hawaii Five-0 universe and is in something that hopefully uses her talents more. But yeah, it did feel like the This Is Us vibes are very strong. So I don't know that I'd go for
Very
it.
earnest.
But very earnest.
Very earnest. There's a scene in the pilot where a group of guys start saying to each other, we don't talk anymore like we used to. We don't talk about our feelings. And literally the entire show, scene by scene, prior to that scene, was them talking about their feelings with each other. I was baffled that they had that scene. Up next, South Park premiered. I love South Park. I've always loved South Park, but I'm a little wary of equal opportunity offenders right now. When South Park hits its target, I think it's the best thing out there. When it misses, it feels like kind of getting bullied by like a MAGA chud. So I'm not really sure. I've watched the first episode, which is about school shootings and about dismissing women who are upset. Apparently the only ones upset about school shootings, according to South Park. It was quite funny. I had my hand over my face while I was laughing a lot of the time, but it was still pretty funny. You guys?
I've been watching it in a while. Again, that's one that I sort of had my fill of after a certain point, and every now and then I'll check in, but I haven't watched it consistently a long time.
I'll check in on the controversy, but I don't watch it either.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did either of you guys happen to see the season from a few seasons ago where it was their one serialized season? They did an entire season that had one storyline. Yeah. It's great. Oh. It's really, really great. All right, let's move on to Thursday, Note Card Switch. Note Card Switch.
A lot of good stuff on Thursdays.
A lot of good stuff on Thursdays, Chris. A lot of good stuff
or at least one really good thing on Thursday.
Some of the most popular shows on TV made their triumphant return. We're going to talk about them right now. The most popular one, beloved by audiences everywhere, SWAT.
SWAT?
I love Samuel L. Jackson in this show. It's really great, and Colin Farrell's great, too.
Oh, that's right, the movie SWAT.
That exists, right?
I'm sorry.
I think that
it's
turned
TV
15
show.
this year, so anniversary.
I mean, I don't watch this show because I don't need more militaristic propaganda in my life, but do you watch it?
I do not.
Okay, let's move on. Mom, an actual show about people with funny actors in it. I like Mom. I don't really watch it, but it's such a nice show.
Yeah.
It's a pretty popular show, I think, and like also, I mean, you have Allison Janney and Anna Faris doing great stuff on a weekly basis. Again, it
Cash in
never
that check.
It never ceases to amaze me how you have these great actors just on these shows for a long time. But like, good for them, and like, you know, I think Anna Faris is a national treasure myself, so it's like good that she's very funny on this show.
That is two national treasures right there, Janney and
Faris.
Exactly.
Yeah. The show was created by Chuck Lorre, which kind of bums me out, but it's not bad. It's a pretty good show.
It's better than Big Bang Theory.
Better than the Big Bang Theory, that's true, and probably better than the Hawaii Five-0 Magnum reboot, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, Murphy Brown. We brought Murphy Brown back, probably much to the chagrin of Les Moonves. Ethan, what do you think?
It's always so great when you first see all the actors you remember from the classic run, and then they tell their first joke and it's bad, and you're like, oh no. And that was sort of the experience of watching Murphy Brown. I think from the first scene on, it just felt. It just felt, why are we here? And that made me sad. It sort of, not that it tarnishes the memory of the original at all, but it doesn't justify why these characters are back again.
That's how I felt about the Roseanne reboot. Outside of the politics of the Roseanne reboot and sort of what happened after it premiered, and her politics prior to its premiere, I was very excited because I genuinely love the original run of Roseanne right up until the final episode. I just think it's one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. And then the show started within 5 minutes of the first episode. I was like, no, this is not this does not hold the memory, and nobody needs jokes told in this fashion anymore by these people.
I do hope that once, because the first episodes can sometimes be the roughest when they're all reunited. So maybe once they're maybe deeper in the run, there'll be better episodes. Right? When the X-Files came back, it was the same way. The first few episodes from Chris Carter were awful, but then the later ones that were written by other people, Darren Morgan, other writers, it felt like, okay, I can see why this episode at least justifies its reemergence. So I'm hoping that there's some deeper episodes in the run that maybe use the cast better and aren't quite as artificial or feel a little more natural than the pilot.
I really enjoyed when the X-Files came back and did their Monsters of the Week episodes. I thought those were the best episodes of the new run. Anytime it tried to do the serialized sort of conspiracy theory stuff, felt a little too close to home.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a show that, for so many people, is exactly what the title says. A Good Place.
Yes.
The show's wonderful. There it is.
Yep.
People love this show. Do you love this show?
Love this show.
Yeah.
This is a really legitimately great network show. Probably the one great network sitcom that has premiered, I would guess, since like 30 Rock. I mean, or The Office. I mean, it's like maybe Parks and Rec, I guess, the last one. This is a great show. It's really creative and fun. It actually is a lot like Lost, way the storytelling works and like the mystery of it, but it's very funny and like it actually poses some interesting questions. The cast is great. A full hearty endorsement of The Good Place.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the same writers as Parks and Rec, I believe, right?
Yeah. Mike Schur created that one and brought over a lot of those writers over to this one. And it has the same just attention to detail and the same love of characters. I think what I love about him is just how much he truly loves the characters he creates and really makes you love them in the same way he does, obviously. There's just a lot of affection on the show.
He's also never a lazy joke writer. The jokes are genuinely funny. You can tell that they're They're really fast moving like 30 Rock, and they're also, you can tell that they would make a comedian laugh rather than just make a random person laugh.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. We love The Good Place, though. I probably
Yes.
recommend that more so than anything on this list so far.
Easily. That is the show, for sure.
Law and Order SVU, season 20. This is one of the most successful shows in the history of television, and it says so much about us as human beings, and we never talk about it. Should we talk about it right now? Why is this show so successful? Why are these NCIS Law and Order shows so successful?
Well, I will say I'll break SVU out a little bit just because Mariska Hargitay's character Olivia Benson is very different than the male-led ones on CBS. I mean, it's true that we are ultimately still dealing with sex crimes and mutilated bodies cut up, but the fact that
We're sick is what I was getting at.
But where Olivia's, at least Olivia Benson as a character is coming from a different place than a lot of those other shows are. It's not fetishizing the military. And Mariska Hargitay in her own life has been very vocal about speaking up for survivors and defending survivors and really putting survivors front and center in the show and telling their stories. So I think that is the one thing that, if anything, SVU contributes. It's that aspect in a way that maybe the NCISs don't quite as much, or CSIs when those were on.
Do you watch it?
Not regularly. I did just see the season 20 premiere because I was at the Tribeca TV festival. They did a 20th anniversary panel for it. So it's interesting. I mean, by this point, the formula is so strong. You're just sort of watching the formula. You're waiting. The audience is waiting for the beats to happen. So I can't say that it's anything innovative. But at 20 seasons in, it's not going to be innovative. You're just looking for the same old thing, I think.
Do you want to contribute?
No, let's keep going.
Okay, Grey's Anatomy, season 263. What is that? It's like 15, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The show's still going. Okay, next to How to Get Away with Murder, season 5.
Again, Viola Davis, legitimately a national treasure, great actress on the show every week. I mean, say what you will about network TV, but it's like a blessing that these people are going into 10 million homes a week. That like all these people who maybe would not see a Viola Davis performance in a movie or something get to see her
Violet
every week.
Widows would not get made if it wasn't.
Well, yeah,
something
now
like
I mean
How to Get
Viola
Away
Davis is
with
like
Murder.
an A-list star because of Get Away with Murder. So good for her.
Okay, so let's move, and it's a fine show. Let's move on to fall or to Friday. First up, Friday. Blue Bloods. This show shoots in my neighborhood. That's all I got.
There you go.
Okay, up next we've got MacGyver, the reboot. We've talked about this, right?
I thought we did with
we talk about it before we
Hawaii
started?
5-0. I don't know. It's all the same. Next.
It's like the 80s.
It's like Magnum, basically.
Yeah,
It's the same thing as Magnum.
And the next one is Hawaii 5-0,
Oh, okay.
season 9.
Great.
Same thing. But let's talk about this next one.
Can't wait.
You want to talk about this next
Yes.
one?
Yeah, last man
Let's
standing.
do it. The rest of the show might be us just talking about this. This is a show that feels particularly egregious after what we saw yesterday and Lindsey Graham screaming into the void that a white old man deserves to be heard, deserves to speak. Last Man Standing with Tim Allen is a show about a conservative and a liberal world that show that no one watched before, but since Trump won the election, Fox was like, oh, I guess this was good. Politics, okay. What the fuck?
Well,
What
first
the
of all,
hell?
people did watch it. That's why they brought it back. It was actually a relative success for the time slot. It was on Friday nights always.
On ABC, right?
On ABC. And it's it's like the quintessential Trump show because he is a conservative, blowhard white man who is incredibly wealthy, right? He owns like a series of stores, I think, and he's, super rich, but he acts like he is so a victim and so, the world is
I remember
against
in my
him,
day.
and he's got a liberal family, and a lot of the yucks are like, haha, look at these snowflakes over here, and it's unbelievable. And it's like, I cannot, and Fox brought it back. I'm sure it's going to be a huge hit for them. I have no doubt in my mind that people will be excited to watch it. It's just amazing. I can't believe it. And that Tim Allen got away with doing, when Home Improvement was on, when Murphy Brown was on and stuff, it was like, I never realized as a kid, like, oh, this is bad.
didn't either.
But now I'm like, oh man, that is incredibly toxic, and he just literally brought it back, but richer and more entitled, which is perfect for the Trump era.
Yeah. I mean, I can't quite tell why. Again, you know why it's happening. It's because Roseanne was a hit, and that was and they were hoping to tap into that audience. But it's basically, I think of All in the Family. If Norman Lear didn't see Archie Bunker or didn't see the humanity in Archie Bunker and try and find and didn't debate or didn't realize that Archie Bunker wasn't the hero of his show. I think that's the main thing there. Is that it's an All in the Family where Tim Allen is obviously treated as the hero, and no one has any outside perspective on it.
Like if David Chase didn't know that Tony Soprano was wrong,
Right.
most of the time, right?
Right.
I just don't understand why this works.
Mm-hmm. Have you looked outside?
Yeah, I know.
Why it works? Look, put on the news, Ricky. Come on.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just makes me sad. So bad. Okay. I guess I don't even have words for it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is The Cool Kids. It's a new series, also on Fox. It's produced by Always Sunny's Charlie Day. It's about a group of old people who are very funny.
I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, it looks funny, though.
Love the premise. Love grumpy old men.
Love Charlie Day.
Great.
He's great. Let's move on to the next one now. Tracy Ullman's show. See, if we had watched all of these, kind of like Ethan did, we would be much more tired and we wouldn't be able to host the show. I just want to give you a plethora of excuses for why we are not good hosts right now. At least Chris and I are. Ethan's great. Ethan's great. Ethan's gonna have my. Ethan's gonna have my job.
Tim Allen's
Still on
job.
Friday or are we on Saturday yet?
No, we're wrapping up
Okay.
Friday right now with Tracy Ullman's show.
British national treasure Tracy Ullman, we should say. So
100%.
yeah, exactly.
She's really
she's
great.
wonderful, and we should just say, watch it for her if nothing else.
Yeah, go watch the show. It's great.
Right.
Okay, Saturday. Does anyone have any questions about shows that we've covered yet? Great. Okay, moving on. Okay, next up we've got Saturday Night Live coming back for its 44th season. The show is kicking the season off with Adam Driver as the host and Kanye West as the musical guest. I have to say, as much as I love Saturday Night Live, I find no catharsis in watching their reenactments of what's happening in our politics. Are you guys looking forward to this?
It
Bums me out. I saw
maybe
someone
like a car crash.
I saw someone on Twitter yesterday being like, if you don't think Eddie Bryan isn't going to play the sex crimes prosecutor, you're not thinking. And I was like, I don't want to see her do that. I don't want to see just someone reenact this. It was awful.
Right.
Yeah, I think they've had a real tough time with the politics humor in the last couple of years. I think
They keep leaning harder and harder.
yeah,
into
because
it.
it does create the viral moments the next day. They're on all the Sunday morning shows. They're on on every website has to write them up. Saturday night, honestly, now that they're live on the West Coast, they've kind of really owned that coverage in a much bigger way. And the show is incredibly successful. It won an Emmy. Tiffany Haddish won a guest actor.
Doesn't it always win Emmys?
I mean,
I
yeah,
feel
but
like
it's funny. I think creatively, it's not nearly as funny. Everyone would always say this. I don't think it's as funny as it was even 3 years ago. But it's maybe more successful than it's ever been. So it's like they're just leaning into it. I find Alec Baldwin's portrayal of Trump really exhausting.
Yeah.
I think he is exhausted by it. He said he's exhausted by it, but they're bringing him back anyway because whatever. And it's just the idea of sitting through that this weekend, you're right. They're going to do this Kavanaugh thing. Maybe they'll get Will Ferrell to play Kavanaugh or something, right? Or
Lorne Michaels will call in favors.
wait, you sold me.
you know what I mean? It's and he'll be like, I drive a Dodge Stratus and blah, blah, blah.
I hope he just says I was lifting weights with Tobin. If he says I was lifting weights with Tobin, I might.
Repeating Will Ferrell lines, right? That's all it would be.
Right.
So I could definitely see that happening this weekend.
I will say, though, when it comes to political satire right now and Trump impressions, I do much prefer Anthony Atomeniak's The President Show on Comedy Central, where it's actually satirical and a world is built and they're really mocking a system as a whole rather than just taking pot shots at a silly thing that was said or a mannerism, which really does no one any good and is really shallow, toothless satire.
That said, as negative as I am on some of that stuff, I think the cast is really strong. They have a lot of funny people on it now. I mean, some of the new people they brought on are really good. I'm very curious to see how they'll deploy Pete Davidson this season because he obviously became a superstar because of his tabloid relationship with Ariana Grande. She was supposed to be the musical guest for this episode but wasn't feeling up to it, so that's why Kanye is on. I'm psyched to see whatever crazy train wreck stuff Kanye does. Right. Will he come out with a MAGA hat and a Colin Kaepernick sweatshirt like he was wearing this week in an interview? I mean, he's possibly got new music coming out. Adam Driver was a great host last time.
Great. He's great at everything.
He's super fun.
He's an
so it's
effortless
there is a
talent.
lot of reasons to be excited for it, but it's just that opening cold open that is going to be playing for the cheap seats of politics jokes. Is just
All go to bed once it's over.
Yeah.
Right, you see that. The other thing to keep in mind, I mean, just looking at it is, speaking of the cast, I mean, this could be Kenan Thompson's last season. They've already rumored that. I believe Kate McKinnon is also at the end of her contract as well. So we might see turnover by the end of the season and with some people who have been established for a long time and what that means.
Keenan should leave. Keenan should stay, personally. But I
You're
know
just
he's got a
he's
show
got a
coming.
pilot
He's been there for
that might
15
go.
seasons, so and Kate McKinnon obviously has a movie career, so she could leave. But
All right, capping off the week, because we've been on here for a long time. This is Sunday
almost as long
night.
as NCIS.
Yeah.
Good one.
We've got Godfriended Me. This is, I believe, a religious show. I'm not sure. It's on CBS.
The Touched by an Angel Network.
I've seen the poster in the subway stations, and looks fine.
Yeah. Do you know anything about it?
I don't. Apart from the,
Even
apart from the
Ethan doesn't.
promos.
Does
yeah.
anybody here know anything about this show?
Yes,
Oh,
come
yeah,
on, please help
up.
us.
Hear it.
What a fun thing we're doing.
I watched the trailer, and it's so weird because the trailer sort of started off as like a lighter drama, but then like there's a moment where like someone almost gets hit by a car or something, and then it just goes into straight drama. So it'll be interesting to see like tonally like what the show is or like if it works, because to me it kind of just seems very like cheesy and like not good. Yeah.
Like Touched by an Angel,
That's
you're
great.
saying, basically.
That was an excellent summation.
Do you
Thank
want to co-host now?
Yeah.
Come on up. No, that's fine. I'm just kidding.
Okay, from Godfriended Me, from Heaven to Hell, NCIS Los Angeles.
There we go.
In case the dead women of New Orleans and whatever other cities this show takes place in weren't enough for you, they got them in Tinseltown too. You gonna watch?
No, come on.
Okay,
Let's
great.
keep
Let's
going.
I gotta say them. We got The Simpsons on Fox. Never die.
Yep.
No, I'm curious about The Simpsons. I've not watched it in years, but I am curious to see after all the controversy and putting their feet in their mouth over the Apu controversy last season, how they deal with that this season. I will be interested in seeing, or at least reading about. But
if they deal with it,
they could very well
push
not.
past
Matt
it
Groening
because
has kind of dismissed it frequently.
And Al Jean too. Yeah,
but I would be curious to see if that gets a renewed push, after the show is back.
What are they on, like 27?
28.
28?
Or
I think, well, this is the 30th year. It celebrates its 30th
the
anniversary in
30th
December.
year.
Yeah, it's been 30 years since Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. So yeah, we have hit the 30th anniversary of the show in general. So
wild.
Yeah, it's crazy to think.
Okay, up next we've got Bob's Burgers. I also say Never Die. It's a lovely show.
don't watch
It's the
it.
king of the hill
lovely.
of the current Fox
That
lineup,
sounds
I
like
think.
it.
It's it has
I
that.
agree with that. And we've got Family Guy. Die. Right?
It could have died. It died once.
Yeah.
It could've died
Apparently,
again.
I'm not sure if it's in the premiere, but apparently there is an episode, or it's in the premiere, where Trump sexually assaults Meg in the episode. And again, I asked this question: do we need this?
I don't think so.
How does that help? How does that push the conversation forward? Like these are absolutely dire, serious times politically. We don't need Family Guy making like a get.
I think a lot of the shows have a tough time with this, where it's like, and you've seen this even with like some in the media too, not just TV shows, where it's like they're just treating everything like it's the way they would have treated things in the past, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to do like SNL or Family Guy with this, where it's like, oh, the president did something stupid, so we'll just make fun of it. But the situation is so heightened now, and obviously from every vantage point, it's just the world is burning, that no one wants this kind of satire, I don't think, and certainly not the way these shows are maybe going to go about it. And they're just stuck in that past time where it's like, we can get away with doing this stuff because it's fun, and not thinking maybe of the consequences or how it's even reflected, in society now.
I think it makes things feel much lighter for people. It alleviates the tension that I think everybody should be feeling. That's sort of
But
how
I don't think
feel
it's
about
alleviating any tension, because I think people are not liking it, right? I mean, like,
Or it's just people, how do we take it?
We're not.
We're not, but we're a completely different audience than the majority of
Sure.
the people that watch Family Guy. You
Right.
know, treating sexual assault, especially by the person who's running our country, as a joke. I don't think it's funny. I'm not one to get offended by much, but I'm not necessarily offended. I'm just kind of bummed out that they think that that's the best way to approach this topic.
And you have think about like their Family Guy, the audience of like impressionable 15-year-old dummies watching that show, and then being like, oh, it's just fun, like that's funny. Look at that. I mean, that's not great. So boo on Family Guy.
But these artists also feel I think they feel compelled and obligated to say something about the times we live in, because we have, for better or worse, people have elevated. Maybe it's Bill Maher's fault, but we've elevated Seth MacFarlane to a political commentator in addition to a comedian in some
So
cases.
much is Bill Maher's fault.
Yes,
So much
it's
is Bill
true.
Maher's
How come we didn't
But
talk about
there's-
him? His show's on Friday night, or is it ending?
I think it's been going on though. I don't think
no,
it's
it
coming
has.
back.
Yeah, it's already
yeah.
done.
It's the only what's
But-
coming back.
But
I
yeah,
want to talk about Bill Maher. I will say this in regards to Family Guy and the conversation that we're having right now. I genuinely love South Park, but as someone who grew up watching South Park, I do wonder and worry about the effect that it had on impressionable young men who were 13, 14, thinking that some of the words that were used on that show are kind of okay to toss around. When we talk about internet trolls right now, and we talk about like MAGA people tweeting horrific statements at people, a lot of that stuff, and when they say it's just for laughs, it's just lulz, a lot of that seems to be learned from a kind of sentiment and a kind of ideology that comes from something like South Park. We're equal opportunity offenders. We should be able to say these things.
Right.
And I worry about stuff like that, especially with Family Guy approaching this topic. Anyway, thanks, guys. That about does it for us. I'm sure you're going to spend your weekend watching all the shows we discussed. Or, like me, you are going to participate in the new American tradition of desperately calling Senators Collins, Murkowski, Manchin, and Flake, I guess, and pleading with them to do what's decent. Big thanks to Ethan and Chris for joining me. Thanks, guys.
This is great. Love
Thanks
it.
so much.
It was super fun.
All right, until next time, bye.
Bye.